Any question?
I have a question, Elza.
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to thank all the teams involved for providing a solution during the crisis with everything that you've done and everything that you provided. And now that we are more or less past the crisis stage, and the paper that was produced to support what has been achieved, I was just wondering if there's anyone here that can speak about the actual process of the interaction, like the has the doctors or the scientists been able to isolate the pathogen of SARS-CoV-2, or do they have, like on page 86 of the document, it shows 4 pathogens that interacted with the waters of the GANs, and then you saw the results. I was just wondering if there's been any more scientific documentation that has gone along that path where they've isolated the virus, they purified it, they put it in cultured plates so that we can see the results, so that we can start documenting it as evidence-based medicine. Is there anyone that can speak to that, or is that from someone else?
Okay.
Can I come in, please?
Yes, Mr. Keshe.
Yes, there are, just as far as we know, maybe 2 or 4 laboratories around the world who have certificate class that they can actually handle the virus. And this is one of the biggest pitfall at the moment in this system, that WHO doesn't allow anybody test the virus at all. And this is how they have cornered all the nations. This is one of the biggest fraud in this game. They say that the virus needs a specific class lab, and no one except America and China, Russia, um, Japan, France, and United Kingdom, as far as we know, and Germany, who has possibility of having these labs certified, and none of them are allowed to test. And nobody knows how these certifications for this virus is done, and nobody can check to do it. And this is the biggest problem. Nobody can say. This is one of the biggest enigmas about this virus. There is no lab in the world who can test it, and there is no lab who can confirm it. And most of the nations around the world don't have a lab certified to do this. Uh, WHO has to snooker people, and are walking this to the path the way they planned originally to go through. What you say, this is what we've been asking for nearly a year. And everywhere I go, they say there is no lab certified by WHO to do the test on the virus. And the nearest thing is we take nearest virus or one of the viruses of this similar to it, and we can play with it. And most of the labs, that's all they do. This is one of the problems we had in Iran. No one, no lab, as far as we know. And this is one of the biggest puzzles for me, how every lab comes out and they say they are doing the test on the virus, but WHO, as far as we know, hasn't given certificate to any lab to test. This is one of the biggest problems I have, to get any path to do any test. No one has said it. They don't allow nobody to test. But how they come up with that they have found the solution? Where have they tested it on? Which lab? This is one of the biggest questions. We would like the Keshe Foundation technology to be tested. Nowhere. I've been to as many countries, and they say no, that there is no lab which has this certification. So this is what comes very much across, that we don't. There is nobody who can structure this.
Mr. Keshe, can I
This is
translate the question and answer, please?
yes.
Um, uh, Mark just asked, Mr. Mark پرسیدن که با تمام کارهایی که ما کردیم توی ایران و بعد کووید 19 اومده، بعد کش تکنولوژی اینا رو همه رو خوب کرده، ساینتیفیک پیپر رو نوشتیم، بعد آیا تا حالا کسی تونسته توی دکترایی توی ایران یا ساینتیفیکایی توی ایران این ویروس رو بتونن آیزولیتش کنن، یعنی بتونن توی لابراتوری نشون بدن که چطوری هست، حالا هر چند تا هستش. بعد مستر کش ایشون گفتن که به هیچ جای دنیا الان اجازه نمیدن، WHO World Health Organization اجازه نمیده که هیچ کسی این کارو بکنه، فقط کشوری مثل امریکا، مثل اینکه راشیا و چاینا و انگلند و فرانسه، اونم با اجازه فقط WHO این لابراتوریا میتونن اجازه داشته باشن که این کارو بکنن و این یکی از بزرگترین مسئله ماست که بهمون اجازه داده نمیشه که ما بتونیم این ویروس رو بتونیم آیزولیتش کنیم.
Dr. Stephen who asked the question.
Okay. I'm sorry, Dr. Stephen. Julie had a question. Julie, you want to?
I'm sorry, Elsa. Did we get a response?
Respond from who?
If there was anyone that, well, I guess for the doctors, if they had, if they've done autopsies, did they find any infected tissue, or did they find any pathogens at all that could help us explain or document what's occurring in that respect? Or, if the calcification of certain things are happening, do we look at that, or do we know how that process happens and how the interaction of the GANs technology works with that? And or we've talked about how it takes the energy from it, but I was just wondering if there's been any more scientific papers that have been written that can help support it as far as evidence-based medicine. Thank you.
There isn't any. There is that at the moment, whatever has been submitted has been rejected.
Mr. Keshe, your audio is quite low. Maybe you can hook in a mic or something there.
Can you hear me now?
Holy cow, yes, thank you.
Is that better?
That's perfect, thank you.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, this is the problem. No one is allowed to work on tissues like this or confirm anything. The minute the infected person is announced or whatever, nobody can touch it. No one can touch anything which is with corona. We have this problem, for example, in Linz. We would like, if they see anybody with infection, to send them to the machine. We have to test. They can't. This is the dilemma with this process.
Just to ask you, was there ever, when you did the swine flu in China, did that go through a process where they produced the isolate and they were able to show?
Yes, that we have, because it was done by the company which owned the pigs, and the company has its own internal system security. Yes, we have that from the brain tissue, from everything else was done. Yes, but even that we were not supplied by. They didn't provide it. We just know the data.
Okay, thank you.
There is a huge, looking at corona, the way we see it, I don't believe corona and the statistics we see today is real. There is a virus, there is an infection, but I reckon the figures we see, especially in Western Europe, is 10% of what is in what they announce. And if there is the certain numbers, they're all can be managed. Looking at the corona overall, yes, there is a virus. Yes, we become used to it. Does it kill? Very few. And it's not what they're making it out to be. There is a bigger agenda behind corona. Much, much bigger agenda. And it's not what it is, and it'll never be what it looks like. Because the figures don't add up. What we see doesn't add up. And in so many ways, there is no truth. There is no truth in what we see. But as we said, it's a process that we have to go through. I don't see any reality in it. There is no proof as such for this technology, for this disease to be the way it is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. I don't keep wanting to keep repeating it. It's just that I'm trying to reduce the amount of fear that's associated with it, and by having a discussion, you know, a logical discussion based on science and evidence-based medicine, we can take the fear out of the situation and deal with it with common sense. Thank you.
We can't do anything at this moment of time. Nobody can do anything with it. I don't think anyone is more involved in it than us as a Keshe Foundation. But at the same time, the more I sit, I look, finding solutions it's become impossibilities.
Mr. Keshe, at the same time, with this COVID in USA, for whatever reason, it is all, it seems it's political, because certain zip code in New York, they shut down from 3 weeks ago, and then certain area is the Jewish area. And then they is stating there's no COVID here, but closing our shops is all political. And at the same time, they made an announcement, Governor Cuomo made an announcement the other day, anyone who wants to enter New York State, they have to do a test, COVID test, 3 days before, and then 3 days after they come in. And I think 4 days after, they still again 3 times testing, and they actually controlling the in-state traveling right now.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid making it a political issue. I was just talking about the science, if at all we can talk about that. I'm avoiding the political aspects.
We staying politically outside, but not this. There's a lot of work going on, but WHO has not certified any lab for anything, anybody to say what they tested is positive or somebody has managed to do anything with it. It's kept in the veil of secrecy by the officials, and nobody has a lab to test to confirm this. When we see data coming from different labs around the world, I just ask myself, which lab have they used to certify this work?
Isn't it true they haven't isolated the actual live coronavirus yet, and don't actually have a live sampling as such? It can't be taken so easily.
Because we spoke with the officials in Iran, and this is exactly what I gather from the universities and institutions.
So what you're saying before is even more true now, that it actually, if there is any virus as such, it's an energy package and not an actual physical entity. So if they're looking through their microscopes closer and closer, trying to find that physical thing, the classic picture we see of the coronavirus with all the things sticking out of it, they haven't actually gotten a picture of it, but this is a computer simulation that we see. It's not an actual picture.
There is nothing as far as, because I battled with the Chinese, with the Iranians in so many different ways. What we get, there is nothing we can actually show the existence of the virus and its behavior.
So in a way, Rick, that's why, like last week, I called out the Robert Koch Institute in Germany, who originally claimed to have isolated the pathogen using the Koch's postulates, but then later admitted that they did not purify. And Charlize also, the dossiers and all the people that are in, that's why I kind of called out the Germans to, in a way, I didn't mean to, but that's, let's get back to evidence-based medicine. Either you did or you didn't. And you need to, because they were what was used to confirm what China was saying through the Wuhan lab. And that's why without an isolate, you don't have a gold standard test. And the test, the RT-PCR test is not a test, it's a process. And so that's, anyway, sorry.
Get that way. Yeah, there's a lot of, there is no lab at the moment which handles live virus, as far as we know. Even Chinese don't have a lab open.
When they test, they get what's called like DNA fragments, I think they call it, which is not, that's not where the thing comes from. That's
we don't
like
physically get the virus in our hand. They physically cannot isolate. It's too dangerous to be tested. It's too dangerous to be tested. And in a very short time, Keshe Foundation will introduce a system where we can identify the viruses and their strength and what needs to become a being that need to be produced. This is part of where in coming time we'll introduce this system that in principle, in a space, we can clarify this. In a private teaching question and answers yesterday or on Friday, I laid out the principle behind this, but as knowledge seekers are not aware of these things, it was a solution to what we call identifying viruses and their strength. There is a method, it's part of the GANS technology, and we will introduce it, that in a space you can't say it's too dangerous to identify it. In a space you have to identify its strength, and in that process solve it to make a counterbalance field for it. Yes, this is possible. I will introduce it. And then in a way you can bring a virus of herpes, and then you can bring a virus of corona, you can bring another viruses next to it, and in that structure will exactly tell you, don't give it a name, this is the strength of it, and this is how you got to handle it to make a counterbalance for it. Is in a way we make antidote of it. Yes, it's possible. It is within our structure, and it's part of the space technology. and we already have it, we can identify it. And in a very simple way, I explained it in the private teaching last Thursday, but as knowledge seekers are not aware of the technology, we can easily explain things.
And that's not through the use of the electron microscope trying to...
No. It's part of our own technology. It's part of the space technology. It's part of the gas technology.
پروفسور من میتونم سوالمو بپرسم؟
خواهش میکنم.
سلام، حال شما خوبه؟
بفهم. متشکرم.
پروفسور توکلی چند تا سوال راجع به هسته کارولین
ببخشید،
داشتم.
اینجا توی این جلسه امروز بیشتر برای امریکایی هستیم و برای کرونا. اگر
باشه بعد من فردا سوال میکنم انشالله.
فردا سوال کنید. خیلی متشکرم.
متشکرم، ممنون.
خواهش میکنم.
Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Yes, let me explain. The gentleman wanted to ask a question about other part of the technology, and we said there today is about the corona only.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. One of the things that we should see, and most probably it'll come into our work in a short time, is not only recognition of corona, is developing technologies which can be unique to Keshe Foundation and unique to being able to be used by the knowledge seekers in space technology. And partially in the next 2-3 weeks, I'll be teaching this, how to recognize viruses in deep space and how to be able to handle them. And these become gradually important to all of us because from herpes to corona and other things in the space and other viruses we get, we should be able to recognize and do.
Mr. Keshe, should I translate for you?
Yes, please.
Mr. Keshe میگن که توی 2-3 هفته آینده به شما یاد میدن که چطوری وایروس ها رو بتونیم بشناسیم، مخصوصا توی اسپیس که وایروس های مختلفی هست بهتون به شما دست داده میشه. مرسی.
Any other question?
And there was someone named Julie had a question. Julie, can you open your microphone and ask your question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So I was wondering, how do you know when the GANs from Cup 1 and Cup 2 is ready to be distributed to the public? Do you judge it by time passed, amino acid buildup, field strength, or something else altogether? Thank you.
The minute you produce, you know it. The minute you see the cloud of the GANs, you know you produced it and it has the strength to operate. You got to understand with a Cup 1, Cup 2, this is all predetermined, the process. Either way you go to it, you come to the same result. There is no deviation from it interacting with the virus. It's tailor-made. Doesn't matter who makes it, how you mix it. It's literally like a milk and yogurt. You mix it, doesn't matter how you do it, this is what you're going to get. At the end of it, As long as you boil it to the right temperature, put it to be cooled down, you get some sort of yogurt out of it, and it's yogurt. And that's all it is. It's when you follow the process, you see the ganses produced, and that's that gans in any strength, it fits into the virus of the corona.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome.
Mr. Keshe, sorry, but you also want to say once it's been properly washed and prepared for consumption to be given out, correct?
We assume you know that already. That's been considered, it's already understood to be that way. You see, like the agriculture or the GAN CO2 machine in the lab, or in the, what do you call, agriculture unit, we consider certain things already understood. We consider everybody understood for what it's used, and for that purpose, what you do with it, how you wash it, or how you use it. As I said in the private teaching this week, many of you make the gases, and many of you make gases, and it works on some, it doesn't work on others. And then you keep on giving these gases to the others, and you say it works on some people, is effective, some is not. The only reason some of your cup 1s, cup 2s are effective and some are not is that did you mix the amino acid with your goods? Did you put amino acid with your material? Or at the beginning you gave some gases to people, and it was successful, and then it wasn't after. Why? Because you forgot to add the amino acid into it.
And is it safe to say you could also say that by adjusting the different salinities that you get a broader spectrum too?
Yes, but you have to understand why you do these things. Salinity is part of it, but you have to understand, any of you who work with amino acid and you work to help someone, you have to consider if your gases you give for specifically for these kind of purposes carries the amino acid or not.
Can I put, Mr. Keshe, you said that plasma gans of the corona should be a weak one compared to corona in the body. Yeah. Hello?
Yes, listening.
Okay. So one of our Iranian friends wants to make a big bath for family. And I think that, personally, I think the measurement should be respected so that it doesn't become stronger than the corona.
We have assumed that the gas water you use, the way it is developed, is weaker than the corona. Doesn't matter in what quantity you use it, as long as within limit which is being said, how much to use, how many milliliters to drink or wash. It's those all has been taken into consideration. When I developed the cup, I made it what I call that nobody can make a mistake with it, because there is a lot behind Corona that knowledge seekers are not aware of. You just handle it the way it's just a cup. But Corona has, and what we've seen from it, conference more and more, has a path and it has a strength that it works within the structure of the body of the man. It cannot be any bigger. Because if you remember, I said, if Corona goes in a certain way, we see part of the body, leg, arm, or whatever will miss because the dissolve hasn't gone that way. So it hasn't got the strength to mutate to go become stronger or weaker than what we estimated. You go to organ, it just changes, mutate to adjust by the protein to give an organ, but in general cannot go any further than it is. I do not see Corona to go any further than where it's still expanded. We are getting used to it. And statistically, we have less death this year on flu than what we had in past months on flu that we had from Corona. Statistically, the death by flu, which is millions a year, is come to zero. So Corona has actually got an advantage. It has managed to get rid of the flu, which has killed many people every year. This is one of the positive things. If you look, ask the government to give us the statistics for the death flu last year or past 5 years, and the death flu for past year, we find out we are at about 5 or 10% of it. So Corona now shows having an advantage. Doesn't matter how many people it's killing. It is not the factor we thought it'll be, because we don't see. Unless government can give us a statistic figure of how many people have died of flu this year, then we can say yes, Corona has been bad for us. But now in past few weeks, we start looking at the death rate by Corona is not there. We don't see the death rate which we have seen for years with the flu. Is actually served humanity.
مستر هیدری، یا شما دستتون بالاست، میتونید سوالتون رو بکنین؟
بله. میخواستم اولا نظر جناب پروفسور رو در رابطه با همون استخر که پرسیدیم رو بدونی که فرمودین جناب پروفسور خودش بهتر میتونه جوابش رو بده. اون نسبت آب گنس به آب استخر رو. یکی هم این که اگه دوتا گنس رو، یعنی گنس کاپ 1 و 2 رو با هم به کل بدن، برای کل بدن استفاده کنیم، برای بیمار کرونایی ممکنه مشکلی پیش بیاد و حتما باید زیر قفسه سینه و اینا باشه. کاپ
کرونا باید همیشه جدا باشه، هر قسمت باید جدا باشه، مگه جاهای مخصوص که میتونیم قاطی کنیم.
باش، خیلی من فقط این در زمینه استخر رو هم میخواستم.
این جریان استخر رو باید بریم توی یکی از کلاس ها راجعش عمیقاً صحبت شده در حدود 2 سال پیش، خیلی دقیق، چون اونجا استخر کشمندشون تو نایجریا بوده، دقیقاً راجبش صحبت کردیم، دقیقاً باید چیکار کرد. توش خیلی دقیق گفته شده که چیکار باید کرد و چیا میشه ریخت.
مستر کش این جریان استخرش فقط برای کووید هستش، واسه چیزای دیگه نیست.
برای کووید هم همینه، نمیتونین توش آب تنها بریزین.
باید با گنس ترکیب به
خود گنس خود آهن ها باید توی استخر باشه، آب تنهاش نیست.
بعد مستر کش ایشون میگن مثلا تمام خانوادهشون که کرونا دارن مثلا 5-6 نفر برن توی آب یک دفعه‌ای.
و اگه توش گنس باشه چرا؟ برای چی؟ چه گنس چی میخوام بریزین توش؟ همه یه جور کرونا دارن؟
فقط میخوان
وقتی
کاپ 1 و
تو
کاپ 2 بریزن.
کاپ شما یک توش یا کاپ شماره 2 یا 2 تا استخر دارین، یکی مال کاپ شماره، یکی مال کاپ شماره 2.
کلا یه دونه استخر داریم.
خب نمیتونیم بکنیم، فقط میتونیم کاپ 1 بکنی یا کاپ 1 و 2 رو قاطی کنی، ولی برای مغز و شش نمیتونی استفاده کنی، نمیشه استفاده کرد.
اگه فقط کاپ 1 رو بریزیم برای مغز و شش استفاده میشه؟
ببخشید باید ترجمه بشه به انگلیسی، میشه لطفا ترجمه کنین؟
بله. Mr. Haydari is asking about the same subject, the swimming pool, that if we can put the cup 1 and cup 2 in the same one, and what's the percentage? Mr. Keshe is stating that you cannot put a cup 1 and cup 2 in the same swimming pool, because if you treating the brain or the lung and the other part of the extremities, you cannot mix them. So somebody has the problem with the brain or the lung, and somebody has with the problem with the joint or lower extremities. Are you gonna differentiate between those? So you cannot mix the cup 1 and cup 2 in one swimming pool and allow the patient to go into the same. So it has to be different.
But we can still use the cup 1 and cup 2 in the bathtub?
Yes, cup 1 separate, cup 2 separate. The cup 1, cup 2, when we go into critical conditions, we use. We suggest, if you suffer from the specific kind of corona, yes, but you should not primarily mix them. We mix them when there is essentially what are called critical conditions. But we always suggest don't mix the two together. It's a very clear, one is white tissue and one is a red muscle tissue.
مستر کش میگن که برای کرونا به خاطر اینکه استراندهای مختلف داریم، قسمت‌های مختلف بدن رو چیز اثر میکنه، و همین مهمه که کاپ 1 رو توی بثتاب مثلا میذارین با کاپ 2 جدا بذارین، برای اینکه نوعاش مختلفه. فقط برای موقعی که خیلی دیگه اون کیسش خیلی عمیق کروناش، یعنی خیلی کریتیکال هستش، اون موقع هستش که کاپ 1 رو با کاپ 2 رو قاطی میکنیم. برای بیشتر موقع ها، یعنی 90% موقع ها باید جدا جدا استفاده بشه، بستگی به این داره که چه قسمتی بدن با کرونا اثر گذاشته شده.
نظر من برای بدنی که تقریبا یکی دو جاش در هم ریه هاش مثلا درگیر شده، هم مثلا کلیه‌اش، برای حالا یه همچین کیس هایی میشه مثلا از 2 تا استخر استفاده کرد، حالا یکی برای با کاپ 1، یکی هم با کاپ 2 یا ترکیب کاپ 1 و کاپ 2.
شما چند تا استخر دارین؟ دو تا استخر.
من خودم یه دونه استخر دارم، اما میتونیم درست کنیم. میخواستیم یه جایی درست کنیم که همین جوری حالا تعداد افرادی که معالجه میشن رو بتونیم بیشتر کنیم.
ببینیم باید بدونیم که چجوری رفتار میکنین باهاش. این موضوع استخر خیلی چیز نیست که بتونیم برین توش. اونایی که خیلی حساسن وقتی که قاطی میکنیم 1 و 2 رو اغلب بهش مگنزیوم هم میزنیم، چون رفته تو ماساتشا که باید باز شن. بس اونا بعدا حرکات بعدی سرطان رو جلوشو بگیریم. ولی اغلب وقتی میگیم 1 و 2 باید جدا باشه. وقتی 1 و 2 رو قاطی میکنین بی چیز در سر بعدی دیگه به وجود برای خودتون میتونیم بیاریم. 1 برای صاف سینه و مغز، 2 برای ماهیچه است. اونایی که ناراحتی های روده خیلی سنگین میرن 1 و 2 رو حتی قاطی میکنیم خیلی کم با مگنزیوم 5% برای اینکه معده رو درست کنیم.
برای خوردن دیگه، یعنی
بله. حاضر خانم میشه ترجمه کنیم.
خیلی ممنون.
Mr. Keshe is stating that when you have the very critical, I mean, when you want to use the swimming pool, you have to be very careful in treating patients. You can't just use a swimming pool and treat everybody the same. So when you're dealing with the red tissue, you use the cup 2. And when you have the brain and lung, we use the cup 1. And when it's a critical area, sometimes certain way, we have to add the magnesium because we especially, we want to get the area completely affected by it because we don't want to have cancer later on to be affected. So you can't just use the swimming pool as a general, like in totality for everybody the same, because for each kind of a corona is specifically different. So you cannot use one thing for everybody.
خیلی ممنون جناب پرس از راهنماییتون.
مرسی.
Mr. Keshe, back when you were in Italy, didn't you at one time show something with regard to a pool where they, I think it was about cleaning up the water or not having to use chlorine, where they just put a nano-coated plate in the pool and that kept the waters clean and had like a good intention within the water overall?
This is what I use in all our swimming pools. It's a combination of using plates to create a condition that you don't need any chemicals.
Mr. Keshe, is it nano-coated plates?
Yes, it's a combination. Yes.
سوال این بوده که آیا مثلا مستر کش تو ایتالیا استفاده میکردن، یعنی تمیز نگه میداشتن با استفاده کردن پلیت های کاپر یا پلیت های مختلف نانوکوت شده و ایشون گفتن که بله، من برای اینکه کمیکال استفاده نکنم از پلیت هایی که نانوکوت شده بوده استفاده میکردم برای اینکه استخر رو تمیز نگه دارم.
So without a monkey see, monkey do, we need to take our knowledge and our understanding and apply it to this pool in a way that our intention is in the pool.
Can you explain?
Well, because we get so caught up with size of plates and distance of plates and things like that, if the pool is our box, then you should look at it like our box, that we want to create a condition, and we should use our understanding of what we're trying to accomplish as opposed to so fixated on the individual pieces.
You see, understanding what I call the principle is different thing than understanding a physical process. We know the principle that you putting the two plates creates you CO2 or copper oxide, but you have to understand how many plates do you need according to both sides of the pool. It's a simple mathematical. It's not just putting one plate. In a swimming pool, which you have, how you hang it. You hang the plates in different heights. You hang the plates in a different combination of positions. In a let's say 4x10 swimming pool, you need every 1 meter, 2 meter in different depth, hanging on both sides, and in sequence that continuously the water is, the gases are producing that water. It's not just putting one plate. What we call in English a common sense is understanding the knowledge and applying it in the same principle. It's not just throwing a liter of gas of number 1 or a liter of gas number 2 and expecting that's it in a 10,000 liter swimming pool you get the result. How many of you go to the step that you put actually the gases in a pool, knowing that you could swallow some of it if you swim in it? In any case, when you put the plates in, you're producing certain amount of invisible amount of gases. That's why your pool stays correct. When I use the plates in a pool, I calculate how many meters, where it has to hang up, down, below. And in a way, when you swim, you create the circulation for it. When you put the gases in a pool for a specific disease, for example, it's not just what you put in there. When you put the plates in and condition you created, you continuously create amino acid on the surface of invisible amount of amino acid, and that is what you swim, it creates a connection with the gases. You got to understand what it is, what you create in total condition. In the next few days or weeks, whatever, we introduce a technology which all these things become zero. But it's good that you came this way to understand. Now we go to the next step. Using gases and whatever the technology in totally different way, we will introduce, as I said, a system that within 10 minutes, any virus will be extracted from the body. You can go in, doesn't matter which part of the body. The system is more or less complete development. We were hoping to deliver it into LINS or give it to the government officials to give patients which have got a corona positive 10 minutes, 15 minutes later to be tested. This is a machine you need in the space.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Keshe, should I translate for you?
Yes, please.
مثل آقای استیون سوال کردن که راجع به استخر که اگر ما نخوایم مثلا مستر کش همیشه میگن مانکی سی مانکی دو، یعنی میمون میبینه و یعنی کاپی میکنه، که فقط خودمون برداریم طرزی که میخوایم مثلا پلیت ها رو بذاریم توی استخر و ببینیم چطوری میتونیم این استخر رو تمیز کنیم. بعد مستر کش توضیح دادن که اگر شما پرینسیپال یعنی اون قانون نالج و اون اصلش رو بفهمین، دیگه اون براتون مشخص میشه که مثلا وقتی یه سویمینگ پول دارین بستگی این داره که درازیش چقدره، عمقش چقدره، چقدر مثلا پلیتاتون باید 1 متر در 1 متر مثلا پلیتا رو بذارین که اینا وقتی گنز تولید میکنن که سویمینگ پولتون تمیز بشه. یعنی همش بستگی این داره که چطوری این دانش رو فهمیدین که خودتون بر حسب اون تصمیم میگیرین مثلا در ظرف 1 متر بذارین، 2 متر بذارین یا نیم متر بذارین که اینقدر کافی باشی که این گنز رو درست میکنه، تمام سویمینگ پولتون رو تمیز کنه. بعد از این صحبت کردن که در هفته‌های آینده هم توضیح میدن یک نالج جدیدی رو که حتی این گنزی هم که ما درست کردیم دیگه به قول معروف میشه دانش گذشته، که ما مثلا یه کسی که کرونا داره میتونه با این چیزی که درست میکنیم ظرف 5 دقیقه کرونا از بدنش بره بیرون، دیگه احتیاجی هم به چیز دیگه ای نداریم، دیگه به گنز هم اصلا نداشته باشیم، که ایشون راجبش هفته آینده صحبت میکنه. Any more questions?
Yes, we're going to be joining the Farsi in public tomorrow. Can we pin down the exact time? I see the schedule says 2:30, unless I'm looking at it wrong, p.m. CET.
Mark, in New York time, we are in New York, we start at 12:30 New York time. CET, I think is going to be about, if it's 6 hours difference, it's going to be 6:30. And in Tehran time is about 9:30.
Okay, maybe they just had the numbers mixed up. They have 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so it might just be a typo. Thank you.
Because you know, until last week in New York time, because Europe and Iran had changed the time in September. So since September in New York time, we were doing it 1:30. Now, since all over the world they changed the time right now, we just changed it today in USA. So the time fell into the same differences now. So 12:30 here again is the same timing in Europe and Iran. Any more question?
Thank you very much for tonight. And it wasn't that bad. It was good in so many ways. We learned a little bit. But we hope that these meetings becomes the backbone of collaboration, cooperation between different, what they call, speaking languages of the Keshe Foundation. The reason we now encourage these things is as we start teaching other parts of the technology, it can be discussed and spread across equally by all the knowledge seekers in all the languages, that one doesn't fall behind the other. And as we spend a lot of time now in what we call development of universal systems, that it can be applied directly. A lot of things you have learned as knowledge seekers will come to look to be obsolete. But in a way, the knowledge of it needed to take mankind to the next level. And as I spend more and more time in the labs and in development, new systems, new technologies will come out of the Keshe Foundation worldwide. And we expect knowledge seekers around the world to spread this technology very rapidly. And thank you very much for being there. Thank you very much for the Iranian Farsi language. And to the American Keshe Foundation team. We hopefully meet each other in coming days in China, and we'll see where we go from there next. There is a huge opposition from the Iranian government for us to carry out the meeting between the Keshe Foundation, Iran, and Hebrew language. We have to lay some rules that both the Iranian side and the Hebrew sides are happy with. You have to understand there's a huge cultural problem. There's a lot of animosities built over years, and this needs to be laid to rest. And it's very hard for the Iranian, especially leadership, to accept such a link can be established. For this reason, we are reconsidering. We are here to create peace, not more problem, to see how we can bring the, what we call the Iranian Keshe group, plus the Iranian officials, and we have to carry a nation with us to bridge this meeting with the Hebrew language Keshe Foundation. There is a huge opposition within Iran in the past few days, as we announced it, and we have to find a solution for it. And I'm sure by the time will come that we will find a solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. May I add, please, on behalf of the North American Corona team, I want to thank Yosef and Azar for a beautiful presentation. And I want to thank you, Mr. Keshe, for making it possible through all the efforts that you've done. And on behalf of myself, Mark, and Peggy, and John, and everyone else on this side of the ocean, we are greatly honored for your presence today. And I'm sure this has been a huge step forward in us establishing peace on this planet, which is what we are all messengers here to do. And I look forward to being able to continue that in Iran tomorrow. We have a counter invitation, and I look forward to presenting there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.